Today we look at how to resolve amphiboles. An amphibole refers to a logic statement and indicates that we have more than one approach to finding the value of that logic statement. So for example, I have a very simple example here of an amphibole that is P or Q implies R. That's what these little symbols, the first symbol is what we call a disjunction. We read that as or, and we have the arrow that's a conditional function, logic function, and that we read as implies. P or Q implies R. So by convention, what we do is we move from left to right, taking one logic function at a time. So we'd first evaluate P or Q, find out whatever that value would be, take that and move on to that value implies R. But if we wanted to, say, explore the different approach we could have from this, we can instead group Q implies R together, and we would like introduce parentheses and have P or the quantity Q implies R. So we take Q implies R, find out what that is, and we pair that with P or whatever the value for Q implies R turns out to be. So as a simple example, there are only two ways that we would do that. If we move down to a slightly more complicated example, we have P or Q and R implies P. Now, in our first example, we have a logic table with only 8 positions. We have 3 logic variables. That gives us a logic table with 8 entries. Okay. In this other example, we have 3 logic functions. But still, we have only 3 variables, P, Q, and R, unless we introduce a 4th variable, S. So in this case, right by convention, we first find P or Q, whatever that is. We AND that to R, whatever that turns out to be, and then finally proceed to implies P. Now notice P is the same variable. Okay, or if we substitute instead implies S, then we have 4 variables and therefore a logic table with 16 entries. Okay, once again, we can move from left to right, taking one logic function at a time, the disjunction and the conjunction, and then the conditional, or we can group them. We could group P or Q together, and R implies P together, or we can group Q and R together, so we have P or quantity Q and R, and that implies P. So we could exhaust all the possibilities by introducing different parenthetical groupings, and we could label each one a case. So with the first case or the initial case, we might go according to convention, just moving left to right. Or we could, as I had indicated, group P or Q together, R implies P together, or P or Q, whatever that is, we could group P or Q, and then R, and then the quantity R implies P. Okay, so, or for the case where we have 4 variables, it could be implied S, whatever. So I leave it to you to think of other examples and the different number of cases based on where we put our parentheses.